All right. For my pick this week, I'm gonna go to that early game on Sunday in Dublin, Ireland. I'm taking the Steelers here plus the 2.5 against the Minnesota Vikings. And we talked a lot about the Bengals and the Vikings from last week, but if you look inside the box score, it was a lot of turnovers from Jake Browning. I know there was a fumble in there as well that was returned 87 yards for a touchdown. And last week, we saw a lot of field goals that were blocked. We saw a lot of defensive touchdowns there. And Carson Wentz, he did his job last week, right? 14 of 20, 173, two touchdowns. Didn't ask him a whole heck of a lot to do, but now you're under different circumstances, right? Now you're going across the country. You're going across the pond, going into Dublin, Ireland. And I think this is going to be a very difficult game for Carson Wentz. And the Steelers defense last week actually, showed up. TJ Watt was pretty much non-existent the first 2 weeks. I know he showed up in a big way last week for the Steelers team. And I think the Minnesota Vikings right now, led by Carson Wentz in this game, I think they're going to fall a little bit on their face in this game. And look, the Steelers offensively, DK Metcalf has done his thing, but the big bright spot has been Jalen Warren out of the backfield, especially in that passing game where we know Aaron Rodgers, with that first or second read isn't there, he's probably going to dump it down. And Jalen Warren has really, really flourished in his role as a pass catching back for this Steelers team. And you take a look at Minnesota side of things, right? They're coming in injured, right? They don't have Aaron Jones. Yes, Jordan Mason did his job last week, but it was against the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's just a step up for me going from facing a Cincinnati Bengals defense to now the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, this game is, I think it's going to be an ugly one. The total right now is sitting at 40.5. They're expecting a low scoring game here. But I think the Steelers not only could cover this game, but win this game outright, led by Aaron Rodgers. I know he had a phenomenal week one, did Aaron Rodgers, but after that, he's been, I guess you can say, below average. But, they got the job done last week behind their defense, 21-14 over the Patriots. Calvin Austin has stepped up, DK Metcalf, and Aaron Rodgers has been able to spread the ball around. But I think this is going to be a game where we do see some mistakes from Carson Wentz, and I think that's what's going to cost him the game here against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So give me the Pittsburgh Steelers here plus the 2.5 against the Vikings in Dublin, Ireland here. Mac, any thoughts on that pick?
Yes. Talk amongst yourselves. I have a thought on that pick, but I have to go to the other room to get a device to express this thought.
All right. Sleepy, thoughts on the Steelers this week?
Um, so a couple things. Addison's going to be back, I believe, for the Vikings
Yeah.
this game. So that's going to be a big help to them, I think. I don't know if it's going to be a help to Carson Wentz. Look, you're not just asking Carson Wentz to go on the road in foreign territory here and asking him to win the game. You're asking him not just, they have to cover too. I think the 2.5 line is actually an interesting line. I could see this game landing 1-2 and the 2.5 being an important number here. But after last week, you got to think that the Vikings are sky high. That they're going to come down. Like that's just the way that it is. Rodgers probably is a little bit salty and pissed off, and I think that at least he's a guy that could be, I think, for this particular game, that he could be level-headed. And when you get a level-headed Aaron Rodgers, you don't get 5 turnovers, and I think that that was something that, obviously the Vikings benefited greatly from. So I think that this is just going to be two totally different games. And look, maybe Minnesota can kind of settle in here with Carson Wentz, but I don't like what it looks like with him in a game where there could be pressure on him. Anytime that guy's had pressure over the last couple of years, he tends to make mistakes. He tends to hold on to the ball too long. I talked to you guys about this before. This guy's only been on the team for what, a little bit over 5 weeks now. He didn't have to do anything besides like manage the game. It's not like he had to go out there and win that game. He didn't even have to go out there and really win a drive in that game, to be honest with you. So there will be pressure on him, and I think this is the week where he cracks. I like the 2.5 points. I think if Pittsburgh loses, they probably lose by 1 or 2, but the 2.5 is actually, a lot of people might not think that that's a important number, but in this type of game with a total like this, I feel like the 2.5 is going to be valuable. So I would be with you on this one.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Vikings were cruising last week after, halfway through that first quarter because they got that first touchdown to Josh Oliver. And then, like I mentioned, Isaiah Rodgers took that 87 yard touchdown or interception pick six where it made 14-0, and by the half it was a 34-3 lead for the Vikings. So they didn't have to do a whole heck of a lot in that second half there.
I know
Max
where
back.
Mac went.
Oh, go ahead. Do you want to be spoiler?
I'll bet you he has that green button on him. I'm just taking a guess.
Can you hear that? Is that registering?
No, we
It's
didn't
not.
hear it. We didn't hear it. What do you got there? Is it
He
the
has
green
a
button?
button.
I like the Vikings here. I got to disagree. Aaron Rodgers, you said had a spectacular game in game one. He hit 4 touchdowns and no picks.
4 touchdowns. Come on now.
No picks. Yep, I get it. A lot of the ball watchers, a lot of the metrics didn't exactly love his performance. I would say above average. I wouldn't say spectacular. Since then, he's been pretty bad. And if you look the whole season and you combine our two favorite metrics here at pregame for quarterbacks, PFF, which is like looking at the game, charting how well is each throw, is he reading right, et cetera, et cetera. And then QBR, which is just EPA with some fancy bells and whistles on it. How well is the offense doing? You combine those two, he's 31st from the ball watchers, 31st in PFF grade, 22nd in QBR. He's 27th in the league, right behind Russell Wilson, who just got benched for a rookie, and right above Joe Flacco, who is Joe Flacco. I don't think he's very good, and I don't think they've been very good. And you're like, all right, well, the Steelers' defense is why they win games. They've been bad. They've been bad against the run, below average EPA wise, and they allowed Justin Fields to have the best game of his life. They had 5 turnovers against the Patriots, which is why they won. I know every year it seems like they're better than their metrics, and they might be better than their metrics, but their metrics are really bad. They're 25th in just the simplest metric scoring margin per game, where the Vikings are 6th. Favorites do well internationally, and I think this is no exception. And then here's the coup d'etat. Sleepy, you're like Carson Wentz, sorry, is going to have the most pressure on him, and he never does well with all that pressure. He's going to have the least pressure of any game he's ever played in his career. He doesn't have people booing him in London. He doesn't care about, Aaron Rodgers might care about his international appeal, but Carson Wentz is going to be in Mars for all he cares. He's just going to be focused on football. It's not like it's his team to lose anyway. He's a placeholder. I think he's going to do fine. He wasn't great last week, even though they won by so many, but I don't think he has to be great. I think they have the better coach offensively and the better team right now. Yeah, give me the Vikings laying the points in Ireland.